As you know, my name is Selena Maddox, and I've been working with the Fortune 500 for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I was in HR, in facilitation and training. And my master's is in organizational development. And so I've been working with the C-suite of different industries for the past 8 years, generally on an enterprise change level. And what I found over the last 15 years in my profession and my advanced degree in organizational development is that leaders had to be comfortable with themselves in order to be able to implement widespread change initiatives. And so I developed the company Lead.Live.Learn on the side, one, because my company is exceptionally expensive to hire. And two, I wanted to make the subject of personal leadership and therefore organizational leadership more accessible and approachable to the everyday person who wants to live their life meaningfully and intentionally. And this has been very close to home with the death of my bridesmaid 10 days ago. So I know she would want me to live my life as well as I could possibly live. So with that, I developed a company called Lead.Live.Learn. And some of you may have seen my posts on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, and I'm getting more and more professional with it and hope to scale this subject. So lead is the very first topic of, and what is today's 55 minutes together. And it's the first of 3 parts to my framework. And so the subject of today is how to lead ourselves, leadership me, in a way that I can then go out into the world and enjoy life and enjoy all of the pieces that I encounter as I go along. So what we'll do is, over the next time together, is we'll take 5 minutes to just put into the chat, if you want, your name, and find each other on LinkedIn, because networking is a big part of, especially women in leadership positions, whether that's in the household or in organizations. It looks like we have 100% female representation here, which is awesome. And then we will go into the mural board. We'll spend the majority of time in 3 sections, different inputs into your life. We'll examine some different types of inputs, whether they're from your personality, who you are as a person and what strengths you can draw from that, or your social, your peers, the people you hang out with, the chosen peers or the forced peers. And then your environment will be those aspects around the way that you live and how you live, and what's around you that contributes to a healthy and productive and fulfilling life that you lead. So 15 minutes in each of those areas, and we'll do key takeaways, which is for yourself, is if anything comes up for you that hits home, that resonates, that you feel like, oh, you know what, this is actually some piece of information that I want to spend some more thought leadership time on and consider for future reflection, you have a chance to just write that down for yourself. And if you want to share, we can do that. And we'll close with a survey at the end that that assesses the effectiveness of today's session together. So thank you so much for being here with me today. Let's get started. So as we look at the mural board here, I wanted to open with, every day is a chance to live the life or a life that you want. Sometimes it's not always what we thought it would be, but it can be a life that we want. And so when we go through the framework for LEAD, we are going to review a couple of inputs, and I discussed them earlier: personality, social, environmental. But I don't want to discount if there are other types of inputs that you have that are a big source of energy for you in your life. So don't forget other, and please feel free to come off mute as we discuss some of my own personal experiences that can help shape this framework. I'd love to hear from you if there's certain inputs that are big for you. And then, what does it mean to lead your life? So this is my definition, and my reasoning is an acknowledgement that you do have a choice. Choice is the powerful word here. In 1, how you show up. 2, how you respond to things. And then 3, how you spend your time on this planet. You acknowledge that you have a choice in how you show up, how you respond to, and how you spend your time. Not all the time, but a lot. And then, who is Despy? Despy is this infamous character. Welcome, please join us. Thank you for coming today, Camilla. Welcome. Despy is a character from the book 54 Flights that I authored in late 2021. And it's based on a psychological theory of Karen Horney, who was very prominent student under Carl Jung and an ex-Freud student. We learned about in my master's thesis regarding the ideal self and the despised self. And so we all have, in this theory, we have this grandiose image, this ideal self of everything that we can be and everything that we've wanted to become, and this dream. But then there's, on the other side of us, there's this despised self that will never let you get there. It's this negative self-talk. It's this self-doubt. It's these limiting beliefs of yourself that keeps you from ever achieving that ideal self. And so Despy is the despised self, and she shows up inside of my book 54 Flights quite often and manifests into a physical ghost, actually. So a lot of that book is about like defeating workplace discrimination as well as pregnancy issues, but very prominently fighting Despy as well. So the reason that Lead has Despy here on the board is because some of our inputs may be filtered by our own Despy, and you can name your Despy anything you'd like. I've heard people call their own Despy Purdy, random, but it's a perfectionist that lives inside of this one woman who nothing is good enough because it's not perfect. And so she has this constant talk of that. And so as we go through our inputs at the personality, the social, and the environment, I want you to take notes. And I do want you to take notes on your own of things that might be contributing to your own Despy. Okay. So we're going to be time bound when we think of personality. We're going to think in terms of past, present, and future. And so as we go in past, we're going to, across this dimension of past, we're going to think about ourselves in terms of our natural strengths, where our nature, the nurture strengths and areas of improvement, and then our own ability to remember and recall our own memories from our past. So if we start with nature, what is it that if you look back on your life that you think about in terms of who you are as a person, and as you grew up, what was your strengths? Like, I was coordinated, like physically. I was curious. I was, this just was always in me. I was always active and energetic. So I want you to think about some of your strengths that are naturally who you are, and then areas for improvement that have become more prominent as I look back. Impatience. I want things done, and I want them done faster than other people can do it. But then I realize that because I'm moving too fast, I'm not detail oriented enough to have the highest possible quality. So I'm more of a bigger picture thinker. And this is all nature. I mean, this is who I am as a person. And then nurture, thinking about how you were raised. There were lots of things that your parents did well, and there were lots of things that they could have done to improve. And that has had a major impact on who you are as a person. And so from a nurturing perspective, I mean, my friends' parents to this day say, you know, Selena, your parents must have raised you guys really well, because you came out okay. You came out this strong and loving and caring person. So you know that it had a lot to do with the affirmation of your parents. So I would say confidence is something that my parents taught me that has stayed with me. And then caring, you know, my family had adopted 2 children, and we were they were foster parents. So we had kids coming in and out for 2 weeks to 2 years at a time. And so it really taught me how to treat others with respect and also welcome people into my home. And then also it gave me an adaptability that is probably unmatched, because I had to get used to that constant transition. So I want you to think about the way that your parents raised you, and that's like from your past, what has helped define you. And also, as you write this down, think about the things that you're writing down. Like, are you weighting your time? Is the weight of what you remember a positive, or is it a negative? And then areas for improvement would be like, it's going to be around, I mean, lots of things, but I don't know. People who know me on the phone, do you want to give me something? Welcome. Thank you for those of you who have just joined us. We've gone into the lead portion of today's hour webinar together, and we are looking into the past right now to determine where we're spending our mental energy. Melissa, you came on video. Did you want to say something?
I just came on video because I thought, well, you know, we could have a conversation about this if desired to, you know, find examples. But
yeah, do you want to share an example?
I was trying to think of one from your life, and I don't know that I do actually know one. I don't know. I'm with you. I think your parents did pretty well. Maybe, I mean, from what I've seen, they're lovely people.
Well, I can share one, and it's dropping things. Like, this is ridiculous, but every time I drop something, or like a water spills or something, I get so angry, like irrationally angry. So don't let me spill anything. Did you want to share something from what you've heard so far?
Oh, I'm okay. I mean, I feel like, you know, nature as strength I have is probably grit. Also, that's a nurture. Areas of improvement, I don't know, nature. I really enjoyed that you said coordinated physically, because I am not coordinated physically. I don't know, areas of improvement and nurture, I would say just stability is probably a big one.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? From nature or nurture looking back? All right, well then, from memory recall, as you think about like the transformative memories that are ironed into your brain, that are easily recalled, what are those memories? Like, are you looking back and are you proud of graduating with a dual major? are you open from your study abroad experience? Are you traumatized by being forced to go into karate for 10 years and you hated it, but your parents made you? Like, one of my strengths, I would say, is that like all of the times that I have worked hard and been busy, like that's when I'm the happiest. And so a lot of my memories are around achievements and feeling that fulfillment that I worked hard to get that. So I do feel blessed that a lot of my memory recall is a positive. But when I go into areas of improvement, that's not spelled right. Like I have felt trapped my whole life because I was forced to go to like a religious institution that I didn't feel like I belonged in and felt like an outcast for so long. And that's really like studying systems and helping strengthen organizations. Like that's why I do this job, is because of that trauma. And I think about that trauma a lot. So like for me, as a part of like developing this framework, has been like, why am I spending so much time of my life like circling in the negative? There's where my DESB comes in, when there is so much more to think about from your past, whether it's nature, nurture, or the memories that you recall. So part of the exercise here is for you to write down and kind of figure out, like, are you balanced in what you remember from the past? And if it's a positive self-talk or a negative DESB. And then from the present, if you're looking here and now, we've got 3 categories of your sense of self physically, your strengths and your areas of improvement of physically, how you are today, and then your emotional self, how stable, thank you for that, Melissa, how stable do you feel? How empowered do you feel in either your home life or work life or any other life that you're leading? And then cognitively, like, what is your sense of self on a mental plane? So for me, sense of self physically is that I am athletic, and my son just turned 1 and I'm getting back into the gym, and it's like where I belong. It is so wonderful. Finding time is another issue, but I love working out. And then my areas for improvement are being kind to myself, that I'm still 12 months postpartum. He had his 12-month checkup today, and that I have not dropped that pre-baby weight. So I'm being kind to myself, but it's hard. And then a sense of self emotionally, like my strengths are that I can show up and provide this webinar because I'm a hard worker. A day after I went to my friend's funeral in Boston, and did I want to cancel this? Yes. Do I want to do this work? Yes. And so I made a choice to be here, and I'll go cry later. And then areas for improvement, I would say, is that I'm highly defensive. I have a tendency to project onto my husband all of the things that's really wrong with me. So I need to take ownership for when he does the dishes every day. And then finally, in the present term, strengths cognitively, you think about, do you think of yourself as smart? Do you think of yourself as an intellectual? Do you think everyone else around you is smarter than you? Do you know that you have this ability to sense patterns in a way that people can't, and make connections that others don't? And And then areas for improvement could be, you know, being kind to yourself, or like not always thinking that something's going to go wrong. Self-fulfilling prophecy, like the worst case scenario is always going to happen. Is that where your mental space is all the time, planning risks for risks, and, you know, not taking the plunge to try new things because the risks outweigh the value in your mind. And then on the future tense, we think about other dimensions such as building blocks. Building blocks being the systems and the pieces you're putting into place for your future that will help yourself propel yourself, because you've started these foundational elements of, maybe it's habits of reading, you know, the news the first 5 minutes of your day, or getting up and making your bed so that the first thing that you do is organized and feel like you have control over the day, or working out in the morning, or, you know, whatever those building blocks are that will allow you to be your best self moving forward. And then areas for improvement are those things that you know that you shouldn't do, that you continue to do, and you do them anyway because it might be instant gratification versus the long-term benefit to your future self. Maturation is, as we all age, which none of us are, let's be for real, you've learned a lot about yourself and are able to bring a more mature you to every situation that you go to. And so thinking about how you have matured in the positive is beneficial to being able to prepare yourself for entering new situations moving forward. Areas for improvement can be anything that you neglected, you chose to neglect, and therefore you never built that muscle as you've gotten more mature. And so maybe you snap, you know, you hold things in until you snap because you never really allowed yourself to deal with those emotions as they were boiling underneath. And then memory formation, once you've looked into the past and realized what you remember and can easily recall from your pivotal moments in your life, you can begin to decide how you will experience this event or this situation. How are you going to form a memory? You have the choice in how you form a memory. And that is so powerful. For example, my 20-year high school reunion is this year in August, and there's a lot of anxiety around that. I mean, most of the people that I know to this day are, you know, from college and adult life. And I have a couple friends from high school, but like going and seeing everybody when you were that young, like you're not the same person anymore. And so like, first off, the question is, do I go? Second is, if I go, what memory am I going to form? Because I'm going to be super anxious. So, you know, lots to think about, but I think I'm going to go. And so since I'm going to go, I'm pushing for a more low-key place. So it's not black tie and everybody feels like they have to, you know, show up like better than other people. But no matter what, I'm going to reconnect and get to know people who still live in the area that I might want to be friends with and have my kids grow up with. So with that said, the personality inputs that you can choose to spend more or less time on in my framework include your past, your present, and your future time bound. And within them, you can take a look at the 3 areas and think to yourself, okay, do I spend more time as a person living in the past, living in the present, or living in the future? And so I want you all to write that down now, where you spend the most time and where you'd like to spend more time. Any questions, comments, insights? Somebody has a thought they want to share.
Okay, I'll bite. I got a question. How did you determine these pillars for each of the time periods?
I've just pulled in from all of my work. I've pulled in from 15 years of
All of it.
20 clients and have thought about I thought what was most encompassing of each of them, but I did leave room here for that of which I may not have thought about.
Mhm. I think they're very well selected, so that's why I just thought it was very interesting.
Thank you. Is there anything you would add or edit?
I would think about it. I definitely will think about it. Not that comes to mind immediately. But yeah, no, I was like, oh, those are very, very interesting groups.
They are, right? I'd love it if you came up with something and told me later too. I'm going to go into the chat. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Nora. Did you really go to Buffalo Wild Wings?
I didn't come back for it. But I remember very distinctly a friend texting me like, we're at Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know anybody here, da da da. And I said, well, why don't you talk to your wife? Because I knew he'd taken his wife, and it was his wife texting me. So yeah, just saying, it doesn't have to be a big thing.
Yeah, I'm nervous about it. But I don't want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings either.
No. And I'm so sorry, I need to depart. So I'll just say that out loud since we're speaking.
So
I'll watch the recording later.
Melissa, thank you for everything.
Thanks
for joining. Bye. Anything else before we move on to the social inputs? Wonderful. So now that we've covered our personality inputs into our life, we'll go through family, peers, and then your work or career, or if you're in school. So within each of these categories of social inputs, there are certain rewards for these relationships that they reward you for and you reward them for. And then there are punishments, and this can be culturally within the relationship that causes you to either move towards like conflict or away from conflict or avoid it altogether. And then finally, there are generally a key message at minimum one, but a few key messages with those relationships that ultimately define the process of the relationship. So within family, what are some of the rewards that you currently get either from your nuclear family or your extended family, from your maternal family, or if you've started a family of your own? There are tons of rewards for behavior that will either reinforce that behavior or not. Does anyone want to share any family rewards? Hard work for me. Anybody else? Musically inclined, maybe you're rewarded for playing music or teaching music or listening to music, and that's how you connect with your family. What about punishments? Could it be, complaining? You're not allowed to complain. So you learn not to complain and then don't know how to when you need to. Or punishments could be, like doing anything risk adverse. What were the messages, or are the messages, that you give your family to this day? Are they, be active, go outside, get your energy out? Is it watch TV so that I can rest? What are the messages that your family gives to you? How is the relationship defined? Within.
This is Noble from Ghana.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you.
My contribution may sound a bit cultural, but I suppose that's what it is about. I'm beginning to look like the eldest of the family. So when things happen, they all want to let me know. They all want to intervene. Right now, last weekend, for instance, I was called. I live in Accra, the capital. Something happened back in the village, and I was called to come urgently. And so whilst it's good to be recognized, appreciated, the culture can put quite a lot of pressure on you, because life in the village is different from the westernized life in the city. Mm-hmm. So it's both plus and minus. Thank you.
Thank you. So the message is you have to be the one that makes the decisions because you are the patriarch in essence.
Collaboratively, yes.
So interesting. And then at times it's honoring, and it's wonderful, but it's a lot of pressure.
Very much so.
And is there ways to delegate out some of that decision making, or it's culturally unacceptable?
Although it's preferred you honor it, I do delegate from time to time. Yes.
So powerful. And that's from your family and your peers, or is that just family?
Mainly the family. As for the peers, it really depends. It could be a professional line where you are very much equals, or it could be in society, and where they place you depends on where you are, let's say career-wise. If you're the head of an organization, that also permeates the way you are received and respected among your peers. I don't know if that is different from the West.
It sounds similar to me. Does anyone from the United States have a perspective here? I know we have Argentinian, Agnes and Camilla. Where are you calling in from?
Agnes, I'm calling from Uruguay.
From where?
Uruguay is next to Argentina.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Does anyone want to respond?
Sorry, I couldn't understand the question. What was the question?
Well, as at a peer level, decision making can be relegated. Unless you're in a position of authority, then you are the one that has to make the decisions. So it's hierarchical there as well, right? Professor Noble, is that the question?
That's right. That's right. And I was wondering whether from my part of the world in Africa, Ghana specifically, Is that experience the same as we have in the West?
I think so. I mean, in my company, yes. And I know Pam's a doctor, and in the medical field, it's similar from the chief of staff. Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. In certain areas, it can be more horizontal decisions, but in most of areas, there is an authority gradient. So the chief is the one who makes the decisions, and you just need to follow them.
Mm.
So I will say that it's mostly a hierarchy. But there are certain institutions that they try to be more horizontal and more
Collaborative.
collaborative and more, how can I say, more democratic. So maybe they try to like most of the some institutions, they have one chief for 20 years, whereas other institutions, what they do is that they change leadership positions every 5 to 6 years, with the goal that that leader then come back to their previous position. So no person stays on the same position for good, in order to prevent that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Pamela. You laugh at this. There was a time I was doing some work for a client in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is in the eastern part of Africa. Now, Ghana is in the western part. Just for a bird's eye view, it takes me the same number of hours to fly from Accra, Ghana to London as it is to fly from Accra to Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. So that's how the distance. At this workshop, the chairman of the legal committee of this public sector organization, he said he was the one in the chair at the time, and no one should dream of sitting on that chair unless he's dead, quote and unquote. So Pamela, when I heard you, this, it just triggered that one for me. That's some. It doesn't necessarily mean that's the system speaking, but that's that individual's view of his position.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's part of when you understand the way it works and the system that you're in, that's when you have a choice sometimes on the organization that you are a part of. And, you know, there are many women in leadership stories I hear of a movement where their voice is silenced, and within 6 months they move to a new organization because they know that that's going to be how it goes for years to come, and we don't have years to just waste our precious professional experience. So by understanding the cultural norms, it helps us understand our choices in them. And so from a work and career perspective, you know, what is being rewarded? What are the punishments? Are we in the right place? Are we making the right moves? Are we doing the right things that align with who we are in our personality inputs? Or are we finding a constant friction and tension between like every day? Are you finding yourself frustrated and like ending the day being like, this day sucked? I'm not like intellectually challenged, or I am, and every day is dynamic. And I mean, that's why I've been at my company for so long, is because every project is so stimulating. Every client is so different. Every industry is so different. And so it's like, it feeds my natural personality for curiosity, which makes leaving a really hard concept, but maybe it's time, who knows? So think about your family rewards and punishments and the messages your family brings you. Are those the messages you want to be living and experiencing? Are your peers, are your friends your friends, and they are really there for you and for your benefit? And so the messages that they bring you are positive and supportive and we all learn a lot in a time of loss and crisis, and people respond to crises differently, but are they still your friends through it, even if you haven't seen them in a long time? The last set of inputs in the Leadership Me course include environmental inputs, and this is different from social, very much so. It's where you're positioning yourself in the world, and that can be in your networks, and these are volunteer, religious, education, like where on LinkedIn, like who you spend time with outside of those required family, peer, and work in engagements, and why are you spending time in there? Is there a spiritual element that allows you to be free and feel good? And if you're volunteering, are you bettering the world? And how much time are you spending in these areas, and constant continuous education for yourself? I have my wealth advisor here on the phone who is in a new webinar learning something about stocks every day. Thank you, by the way, for keeping me updated all the time, Carolyn. And so are you continuously learning in whatever way you learn? If you're an at-home mom and you're reading the new books of your kids, and that helps you think about how the kids are developing, and that helps you look into like cognitive development and Erik Erikson. So within your networks, what activities are you engaging in? And then what are the messages that are being reinforced as a result of engaging in those activities? How much time are you spending in networks outside of the, as Maslow would say, there's the basic survival, but then there's self-actualization. And self-actualization is when you know that you're going to have something to eat. That your life is not at risk and you have shelter in place. Well, self-actualization is when you realize you have choice, and you can focus your energy on that which is what is called for you. And then information and research, I've spent a lot of time realizing the importance of this area in your environment at the local and national and the international level. It's, I tend to stay at the national level. Like when I'm reading the paper, I want to know how the United States are interacting and how that's benefiting or detracting from the interest of the United States. Now, do I have the Nextdoor app, which is a neighborhood app that tells me what's going on down the street, and the petitions going up are around whatever development in the area it's already overcrowded? Yes, at the local level, I'm engaging from reading what the neighbors have to say, and if they ask for support, I'll always give it to them, and Girl Scouts and all of that. But I definitely spend the most time on the national scale. Now, internationally, I am a member of, under Professor Noble's leadership, I am a board member of IOTA, which is the International OD Association, which is a group of individuals that are across the world doing the profession that I do. And that allows me to see how things are practiced in my profession internationally, and that empowers me. But I don't spend a lot of time on foreign affairs. Obviously read about, the issues happening internationally, but like, that's not my passion. And that's okay with me for now. But it's good for me to know where I spend time reading, I spend time researching, like where my mind goes on that Google rabbit hole and website search until midnight. Like, what are the things? Sometimes it's like absolutely nothing of educational value and needs to be Instagram. But is it over Instagram? Like, are you overspending your life on that? And that's actually not making you feel very good, because you see all these people who think that they make you think that they're happy when not everybody's happy all the time. What is the information and the research that you choose to seek out? And then finally, at home in your environment, and your lifestyle, how you live. When you think about your home, if you look around, you know, do you keep the windows closed or do you let the light in? How is your lighting? Is it contributing to a positive and peaceful environment? Do you follow feng shui? If you do you know that that soft green is like invigorating and actually makes you feel better? Why don't you paint your walls if they're gray? You know that in the DC area of the United States of America, the winter is hard and it's gray and they have lamps now. Like, how have you set up your home? What activities have you done to reinforce a positive lifestyle for yourself? Those are in your control and don't have to be expensive. Maintenance is something that as I've matured, I've found prominent, and I never really thought about it until I had to start upgrading, you know, things at home, like little details like, oh, well, if you're going to have to buy new beach towels, like, and they're expensive, you need to take care of them. And when you wash them, you need to do it on a certain setting to make sure that they are maintained and you don't have to constantly be throwing things away. It's wasteful. And how are you maintaining the things that you own? How is that either contributing to the quality of your life or detracting because you find yourself constantly needing to order new things because you lost everything and you don't have a system in place that allows you to retrieve them? And finally, the last piece of the home and lifestyle dimension is your energy. If you follow your energy, what are the activities that bring you energy and joy? And what are the things that soak it out of you and make you feel tired and make you feel lethargic? You know, are you walking every day? You know, my big thing is go outside every single day. Doesn't matter if you have to put on that parka. You get outside for 5 minutes and you breathe that fresh air and it will reinvigorate you no matter what. It will. And then, you know, are you telling yourself you're tired? Are you telling yourself you don't have the energy? Is that self-fulfilling prophecy keeping you from getting to the gym? You know, if you just get there, then you can do a 50% workout, but you got there and you're going to feel better than if you didn't get there. So with 10 minutes left, I'd like you to think about the key takeaway instructions is from personality inputs to social inputs to environmental inputs. Where do you spend the most of your time? Which inputs are you getting more of? And it can be the entire dimension or it can be pieces of the dimension. But I want you to really understand what is prominent in your life. And then where would you like to focus more of your time in order to enjoy your life more and make more choices around your life?